Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show, and backed by popular demand, the one, the only, Yolanda M. Smith, the Branthropist. What's up, baby girl?
What's up, Dre? So excited to be here. This has been an amazing day. You know, I don't get to hang out with you too often.
You treating for lunch?
When I do,
you treating for lunch?
Hey, I got you. I got you. What would you like? Lobster, steak, some sea bass?
You know, it's so fun. I'm getting ready to have surgery after Mother's Day. So I think I can use a nice fat filet mignon.
I bet you could. Because that knee gonna look like one.
The other one already looks like one anyway. But you've been away for a while doing your own thing. Welcome back to help co-host and stuff. What have you been doing? Tell the viewers what you've been doing.
Wow, it's been really busy. So, you know, this year has been sort of a turnkey year, given everything that's going on in the political environment and so forth. And as a woman entrepreneur, it's super important that you are very agile and flexible. And so one of the things I did is I started going back into the corporate sector with my personal branding and professional development training.
I know. I remember when you told me, I said, what the hell are you doing? Yes.
Brand Builders Leadership Academy was birthed earlier this year. And so, you know, I'm working with some clients, some corporate clients, and working to get some more corporate clients. Still doing the branding, still doing speaking, and just really trying to help women particularly to really get sustainable businesses off the ground, because the number one growing segment in entrepreneurship is women entrepreneurs. And so one of the things we know is that most businesses are out of business within 5 years. Yeah. And there's various reasons for that. Obviously funding, but giving up too soon and just not having the business framework in place to know, and strategic, playbook to know what it is to do to get you where you want to go. So that's what I've been doing.
So let me you know, there's always a method in my questions, right? So with that said, it's going to lead into the show, our guest, right? You've taken a risk. You left corporate America. I can say the name of the company, right? Am I allowed to say?
Well, I worked for several, but the last one.
Okay, Eli Lilly's. You're well known there.
I was in the pharmaceutical industry.
Right. But you took a chance.
Yes.
On yourself. And you've mentioned something else. You've had many ventures. But the toughest venture, I would say, I think I can speak because I know you.
Okay.
Was really taking the gamble on yourself.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Roll with me as I get ready to introduce our guests here.
Okay. I'm with you.
You mentioned the trials and the struggles and the lack of sometimes resources, the lack of support because you were female. Yes. But you got all kind of things on your resume. But to start this new journey on your own was met with a lot of resistance. Yes. A lot of questions. And there were, let's be honest, I know there were times that you was like,
throw in the towel.
I'm gonna throw it in. I'm gonna just go working 9 to 5. But you decided to stay with it. So with that said, hold that thought for a minute. Hold that thought. We have a guest on the show. Boy, I'm good.
You are good. That's a transition.
Mom. Pow, pow, pow. So we taking your reputation to reward method, your brand message, the believing in yourself. And I've just seen it resonate through our guest. Let me tell you about the guest a little bit. She's done everything.
A lot.
I thought your resume was thick. Oh my God. If she was a criminal, she would be arrested. They wouldn't even ask her anything. They would look at her jacket and be like, "You're going to jail automatically."
On what grounds?
Too much shit and too much stuff on your jacket. But
I love it.
Military career. Now she's in the movie career.
Isn't that amazing?
It's truly
all
amazing.
her community involvement.
She's doing everything.
Law enforcement, post office. Well, you know what it reminds you of, and then we can introduce her. It reminds me of this. She's brilliant because let me tell you why. They society will pave a path for you and tell you this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And we were taught, you go to school, you go get a job, you stay on the job forever, you get a pension, you do these sort of things. Mm-hmm. She took a very non-traditional approach to things and still has moved about and is able to design her own life. Mm-hmm. And that's what you do when you have skills. For one, you got to have skill. But number two, you're able to convince other people that you have those skills. That's called influence, so that you can do exactly what it is that you desire to do.
And without further ado, she's going to tell you how she took the blue pill versus the red. That's from the Morpheus movie. That's from the movie The Matrix. Like to welcome. Look, she knows what I'm talking about. She took the other pill. Like to welcome to the show the beautiful Nicole Butler Vegas to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much again for having me. And the thing was, I think I didn't talk about my childhood growing up, but I think when you have doing without, you get very innovative as an adult because you know how to work with nothing and build to have something. And it's really figuring out what you're about, not how you were raised or with what you didn't have, but growing into your own as a person with a purpose and a plan. And I didn't really know what my plan was until my 40s. It really took a transition from different job fields and learning not just about other people, but about yourself and acknowledging maybe things aren't really meant for you in certain areas. And it's okay to start over from scratch, but you do have experience from other areas in your life. So when you do start over, it's really not starting over without anything. You do have something to fall back on.
That's interesting that you say that, because I never like to use the term start all over. I like to say start again, because it's not really from scratch, because you've learned some things along the way. But that's a great segue. So if you could just kind of lay the land so that people understand who is Nicole Butler Vegas, and give us a little bit of the background and how you got to where you are now.
So from my childhood, I went into the military. And I went to security forces. I was deployed, Saudi Arabia. And I thought I was really tough, with my N60 and my Hummer. And I'm like, yeah. Got a little domesticated throughout the years, 27 years of having a family and raising 3 boys. And then I went to law enforcement, in North Las Vegas. And I'm glad I had the opportunity. But then at the end of the day, the bad outweighed the good for me. And I went to the post office, and that's a hard job too. I give every, that mail keeps coming and coming. There's no end
the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Yeah. And then I looked into, because I did a lot of nonprofits with having struggles myself. I found different ways of connecting to resources. So when I come across somebody that needs something, I volunteered so many places, even if it's not here in Vegas. I always suggest look up in your area the nonprofits, so you're not struggling. There's free medical, and there's dental, housing, food, the necessities in life that people feel like a lot of people get deprived on. There are people that truly care, and it's connecting with fellow helpers in the world. So I went to showbiz, and I didn't know anything. Boy, that was really rough. I've been in it 4 years, but the first 2 years felt like welcome to the jungle. I was like, what is this? And who are all these people? And very overwhelming, because I went into the unknown until I made it known. And it's not just being in front of the camera. It's learning the positions behind the scenes. Learn it all. How are you going to be able to withstand when people test you, or they try to manipulate you or use or abuse you? You have to be able to be aware. And the only way you're going to be aware is to put yourself through that work.
Let me ask it. Let me start over a little bit, because your resume is, I can see the passion in all the things that you've encountered, but I also sense a little bit of the pain that it took to get there. Let's go back a little bit, like your childhood. Were you born and raised in Vegas? What was it like as a child for you?
I was born in Buffalo, and I promised my mom I wouldn't talk about it too much. She told me, please, if you ever get out in the public, so I can give a little bit of it. I went to 15 different schools, ended up in a children's home. I was homeless for a little bit in my teenage years. It's fine. That's kind of what happens in life. We either focus or fold. I felt the military was a great way to escape my upbringing. And it has been very beneficial. I mean, but you have to put yourself out there into areas that you don't know. And it could work out or it might not work out based on your choices you're making. And sometimes choices that you make could be lifelong lessons. So you have to be really careful. I mean, I guess do the homework, but when you're young, you kind of jump into things not knowing if it's going to work out for you. I think that's why I have that passion for anybody that goes through struggles. It does take a little bit to heal, a healing process for you to be able to help out other people. If you can't help yourself, you won't be able to help out other people.
You mentioned the military was a way out, but I'm trying to understand, what do you mean when you say a way out?
Well, my grandma that helped take me in for a couple of years, I lived with so many different people. So I know there was different ways of living and being and doing. I think if I was stuck in my one environment, maybe I would have been the product of that environment, but I got fortunate through escaping and having people open up their homes to me, or even the children's home that I was in. I think there's a lot of insight instead of being like, oh, this happened to me. All right, this happened to me. I'm aware of it. What did I learn from it? So I don't have to ever go back to certain circumstances, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but what gave you that resilience? Okay, so because you're saying a lot here very quickly, you understand that. So when you think about that, though, because this is the Andre the Beast Crayton show, and we talk about having that beast mindset to be able to overcome. And so how at such a young age were you able to take that lens and not become the victim and instead become the victor in this situation?
I took the opportunity to learn, be in different groups, and to not want to grow up how I did. Like, I didn't have control when I was a child. Yes. As an adult, I knew there was going to be work at hand. I just didn't know how much work to get out of the circumstances that I was in when I was younger.
And so it's one thing to get out of a physical circumstance, but how do you then get out of that mentally?
I just knew that I didn't want to be how my parents were growing up. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do better. I did meet my husband very young at 19 years old, got married at 20, had a child at 21. And becoming a mom, I just didn't want my child to ever look at me the way I had to look at my parents.
Gotcha.
I knew that I had big responsibilities being a mother, and just working together with my husband. And he also never gave up on me after 27 years. He always supported everything I did and all my wins. So I have to thank my husband, Kevin Gregg.
That's amazing. And you guys are still together. Yeah.
I know, right?
In today's society, that is to be celebrated, right? It's very easy to give up and quit when things get tough. So that's a big deal.
I sense I'm not going to dig too deep, because I know your profession is cool, and there's certain things you want to keep private. I respect that. But I also sense, talking about your mom and dad, there's a lot of pain still resonating there. So without getting too deep in that, what were some of the things that you felt a lack of before you went into the military as it pertains to your parents, without getting too deep and dirty? But that way the viewers can understand that you do have that determination, or you wouldn't have gotten to where you gotten. But people also need to understand that this was actually, according to this, what you're telling me, I can see by your emotions, this is the trigger here. You didn't want to be like them. So what were they not providing that really amplified you, that you needed?
It's pretty much everything. Stability, a home. I lived with a lot of different people.
Gotcha.
My parents, I think, dropped out in 10th grade. My dad passed when I was in my 20s. It was really weird. Greyhound bus. It chose differently. So I try to stay away from anybody that has substance abuse. My mom did give me good advice that they will pull you down before you try to pull them up. So being careful who I let in my environment, my family, is very important to me. And, for the greater good, you will make a sacrifice and commitment. And that's what it does take. Even though, your emotions can get the best at you at some days, you either dig yourself deeper in a hole or you get out of it. We have to be careful, don't we, with the decisions we make, the people we surround ourselves with.
It's huge. They say you become the average of the 5 people you hang around. So if you hang around 5 broke people, you'll be the 6th. if you hang around 5 wealthy, good people, you'll be the 6th, right? So your environment is huge. As a matter of fact, and I'm just going to diverse real quick. There was a study done, and it was done with rats, and this was amazing. I say this all the time because it's amazing about the power of the environment. So kudos to you for getting yourself out of the environment, because the environment is huge. But what they did is they put the rats in an environment where they were very comfortable. They had plenty of food. They were fed, and those rats thrived. They also put the other set of rats in an environment that wasn't comfortable. It was very cramped. There was limited food. They were fighting. Some were killed. So it was called survival of the fittest. Now, this is what they did. Several months later, they switched. Took the rats in the good environment and put them in the bad environment, from the bad to the good. And do you know, based on the environment, the exact same thing happened to the rats in the good environment. They started becoming the rats in the bad environment when they were placed in the bad environment in a survival mode. And the ones that literally were in a bad environment started to thrive in a better environment. So environment absolutely matters.
With that said, I'm going to ask you another question. We saw that the environment wasn't good for you. I'm sorry that happened. Military became outside of the military. Were there other opportunities? Because when you go to the military, that's a commitment. That's something totally different. So did you try other avenues prior to going to the military? If so, what were they? And then the second part of the question is, when you did decide to go to the military, like Yolanda said, that was a complete change of environment. That was structure at its highest degree. How were you able to thrive and become successful in there?
Very good questions. So I went in at 18 years old, but I had to finish my summer schooling since I was in this children's home, and I missed a credit, like half a credit. But right afterwards, I went into the military. And I'm going to give it to my grandparents. When I was with them for a couple of years, my grandma Vera, and I call them Papa, they're passed now, but they helped me. And she was very strict in her home. So I think she geared me to the circumstances. When I was in the military and basic training, a lot of people were crying at night, and I was happy. I was like, oh my gosh, I made it another day. And it was really hard because there was people, I bumped into this smaller instructor, and he's like, I go, excuse me, I had to add tassel like this, and can't have that. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You will learn that very quickly, or you will be an example. So I definitely had to add to it when I was a teenager. Yes. I very sassy and that kind of thing. And you will learn quickly. You will either, when you get squeezed, you will either focus or fold. When you get older, it's risk versus rewards. And the more experience you have, the more you can gain with information on people. And they can't fool you so much anymore. Like even in the showbiz, a lot of people, I did this, I did that. Nothing. They want to do this and that, but they have no credibility to fall back on, which helped me. And when I did law enforcement, I only did it for a year. And, I had like job guilt for 2 years. It just, it wasn't for me. A lot of safety issues. Can't save the world, and some people don't want you to be there. So I just a different avenue. I think showbiz for that opened up a lot of doors, a lot of creativity that, when you're trained like in law enforcement or military, it's like this. There's no emotion. You're kind of like very in military bearing, but in showbiz, you can be like, express it. They want you to let those feelings out, which are very healthy and very beneficial. Right. And I like working with people from all walks of life, and their creativity level and their awareness and their experience is very honored to come across some really good people and just opened up a lot of doors. And then I was also able to connect people to others that maybe it wasn't for me, but it was for them to meet.
When you came out of the military.
How long were you in there, by the way?
Yeah. How long were you in the military?
2.5 years. That was it.
When you came out of the military, what was your mindset, and then how did you venture off into the next chapter of your life?
My mindset, I didn't realize how much of a survival skill you have to have for that too, because we had a set income and we had military housing. So I ended up moving in. I was 7 months pregnant, I think, when I got out of the military. It was very hard. Ended up like the Charlie Bucket family at my in-laws' house for a little bit. It was really rough. And then we went to not buy a house at first. We got this rental in PA. We could afford it. I mean, I didn't marry somebody who had money. He actually had like negative, but he's a really good guy. Very good guy, very easygoing, very smart in areas that I was not in. But we ended up buying our first house, I think a couple years into it. It was like for $47,000.
Wow, I can't do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really rough. I mean, but his mom ended up giving us, I think, $2,500. So we didn't even have money for a down payment. We ended up paying her back and then taking her down the road to Hawaii for a trip. Paid it forward. Thank you so much. Kind of like reflect back. Who has helped you out?
Right.
How did you don't get there by yourself?
Right.
And so very grateful in that aspect, but to not ever go back to that, not having where you can't make ends meet. You don't know if you're going to have enough food. We didn't have a refrigerator oven for 6 months. It was, you know what? You get very grateful when you do have these things in life. So.
Don't take it for granted, right? Yeah, no, it's amazing.
So you come out of the military, then what do you do after you get your house and trying to figure out life? Because you only did 2 years. So let's say you come out at the age of 22 years old, and now you going into adulthood. You're still in your 20s, almost, and a mom. So now what do you do? When do you start actually putting the thought into either being a wife, a mother, and a career? How do you start to jiggle the two and decide which one you really want to do?
Well, the one is the priority is being a mom and being there for the kids. And I also have my stepson I raised full time. He saw his mom maybe once a year. So I started raising him at 19 and he was almost 4. Now he's 30. And then my son, that's 24. And then we have a son that's almost 14. I know. Big age gaps there. Yeah. You know, I like the challenges.
Hey, I've been there. I'm right with you. I had a 12-year age gap, about a 12-year. Yeah. So I get it.
But yeah, starting off new though, becoming, I didn't know, there's no book. I had my grandparents, my Grandma Vera and my Papa, I'd always call and always ask for advice and stuff, but I didn't have like, oh, here you go. Here's some free babysitting. Here's some food. You got to figure things out. I think I was juggling a couple jobs, like Victoria's Secret and security guard entry point to where I lived. Juggling those jobs, just
making it happen. Hey, that's that beast mindset, though, sis. I just want you to know that's what we call the beast mindset, and she's done it on so many levels.
This is a crucial question for you.
Okay,
you're in your 20s now, I assume, or getting ready to get into your mid 30s. Did you ever reach back out to your parents? A lot of time has passed. You matured now.
Yeah, I did. I had some healing. I have a good relationship with my mom, and I give her credit for surviving the road she took. She survived it. She's alive. That's more than most ever going down that road. Usually they're on the wrong side of the dirt by the time it's too little too late. My dad, he passed away at a Greyhound bus where it was a really weird circumstance. I ended up having to pull the plug at 26 years old. The dying process is a very, very shocking. I went there and I went in a corner and I'm like, I freaked out. And the nurse is like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? The gurgling, it was not a good experience, but I tried to help him out. For 1 year of his life, he was sober. He stayed with me for a couple weeks, had near beer. I know he wanted to come back. I just can't have that in my household. Not with my kids. I can't. You can only do so much to help other people out, no matter how much you want a relationship with them and how close you want it. The reality is what it is. And, you want family because they're your blood, but not always. Sometimes like
those are your relatives.
Very hard to be okay. And I have a good sister-in-law. Her name is Melissa Nicole Butler, and she's teaching lovingly detach. Lovingly detach is huge, and it's okay. And sometimes if someone does you wrong or dirty, sometimes you won't get an apology.
That's right.
It just is, and you don't understand why they did that to you because you would never do that, and you have to be okay to let go. If you harbor it, man, it's only going to make you sick inside. They sleep good at night. So.
You got that right. I tell people all the time, we cannot give energy to things we cannot control, and we do not control other people.
I think you need to say that again, because I say that so many times.
Oh yeah, and it's just like holding on to the past, whatever it is. And I had to tell people often, I know you're a good person. You didn't deserve it. It shouldn't have happened to you, but guess what? It did, and that's what we can't change.
You know what I tell them?
Fact that
what an opportunity, though.
What
an opportunity
to do something different, right?
What an opportunity.
Something different. You don't have to go down that same path, right?
You've done a lot of things differently. So moving forward, you did the law enforcement, and now you're getting into the acting realm. What part of your life, because that's what acting is, you got to play a lot of different characters. Which part is most troublesome for you to play?
So as an actress, character developing is something that's out of your comfort zone. So if you get cast in something that you're not really familiar with, I suggest doing the character history, go to an acting coach to learn the tools to portray that character, because your storytelling, I'm not very good at that. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at it, because some people, they're really good at it, and they're so convincing. I'm like, it's really hard to get out of your head when you're into a character, because you worry, am I doing it right? You just have to have that confidence. And I think it takes time, and there's no cutting corners, no shortchanging people. I think when you screw people in this industry, you're screwing yourself at the end. I think what comes around goes around. I think being organic with yourself, all of it, acknowledging, because if you don't acknowledge, if people don't acknowledge, they won't be able to change. If they can't acknowledge whatever issue there is, how are they ever going to be able to change or to understand or be aware? I think it's awareness. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't just an actress, so I wanted to be a main producer, which I got to do 3 feature films on. And that's being in charge of everything, the hiring process, the locations, the proper paperwork, making sure people feel safe on set. They are safe on set. Because a lot of things, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different intentions. I guess it's the intentions of other people. What are they wanting from you? And you have to have healthy boundaries, because they will use and abuse in this industry. So I've been learning to be very careful who I say yes to, because for every yes you say, you're saying no to something else for yourself. So
that's amazing.
I got to go back and ask this question, because I think we missed the answer to it. I said, out of the stuff that you've gone through, you're now in acting. And I understand the character development, but you've been through a lot. How difficult is it for you to go into these different characters, and what part of the character's development is almost like a trigger for you that brings back these childhood things, that brings back these things that you've gone through that may or may not be difficult for you to play?
Actually, the ones that I've been cast in have been really enjoyable. So I haven't had any triggers from anything from the past. I've acknowledged it, and I'm aware, and I don't hide things unless someone asks me not to share too much in detail out of the respect for them. Mm-hmm. Even though I didn't put myself through that. I was a child. So it's one of those, fine lines. I'm trying to be respectful for everybody.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't have any challenges in the character role. I've had challenges as a main producer on putting a feature film together. So that's where my challenges lied, with people that you hire to do their job and they really didn't do their job, or they're lackadaisical. So you have to, address it, or fire people. So being in that position was very hard to have to take that initiative, and for protecting your film and really doing your homework. Not just say if you're an actress, but if you're going to be a producer and you're putting money into the film, and it's in your name, and you're the brand. You're the brand. Mm-hmm. And also people are trusting you to invest too. So you want to make sure that you get distribution. I had a red carpet. We're going to a convention to be on a panel. It's moving up. It's making sure each time you're a little bit more efficient. And you get so much knowledge and experience. So you cut to the chase, the meat and potatoes of things, when people are like, oh, I have this. I go, show me. Don't talk it. Show me you could do this. Mm-hmm. The talking, there's too many people in this industry that they talk so much, and they
believe me. I remember going out to LA in my earlier days, and everybody was either a model or an actress or actor, right? But for some reason, they all worked in the restaurant industry. So, I mean, they're getting there, they're aspiring, and you appreciate that because you really got to believe it before you get there, right? You got to see yourself in those roles and in those positions. So I would, in just talking with you, it seems like you've done a great deal of healing. So you've really positioned yourself now to be at a position of strength. Would you agree with that?
I will agree with you, but it's more community connection. I'm here. I feel like my purpose and passion is to connect others to each other, mm-hmm. or help out in other ways. I think it's really huge. That's where my passion is. So if I feel that I'm in the showbiz and it's really not bringing that community connection, mm-hmm. or helping others or connecting others to what they need for resources, then I feel that I would stop then. But so far it's surprisingly kept going in these 4 years. This is the longest I've ever done anything.
Now, what do you like? What do you like better? Do you like being an actress, or you like production now? Because those are two different demanding things to do. Which one do you like the best, and why?
So being an actress is a lot easier. You just have to worry about your scene, and you can do your table reads, and it's just really you giving it in that scene. Being a producer now, if I'm in charge of something, then it's work for 6 months. 6 months of planning, doing, putting out fires, redirecting. It's 6 months. It's very demanding. But at least knowing that if you are responsible, that you will fully do it the right way. And that's hard too, because it's very 24/7. A lot of messages, a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But I'm only going to connect people that show they could do the work, or they support others. It can't be selfish or self-centered people that are like, oh, what's in it for me? Yeah. I can't be around that. I want to be around the team players and the fellow helpers, and I love that part. So,
how do you determine what you're going to work on? How do you determine? Because you're new at this, so to speak. But not as far as being an actress, but new to the actually like being a director. How do you determine what you want to invest your time in when you're doing a project?
I'm actually never a director on it. Being a main producer is working with somebody that is directing, writing. I love that part, but they have to show me that they fully can complete a feature film. And now, even if someone completes a feature film, if distribution is huge. And I found out through volunteering for like these festivals that a lot of people will submit to festivals because they can't get distribution. So when they're like, I won 200 awards, all it tells me is that you can't get distribution. And that's where you want that distribution, you want that credibility, and you want to be able to show to bigger investors. Eventually you start getting these bigger investors because they know that you can do the work, and it does make it easier. But that workload, it's a lot, and it makes me question. It used to make me question, like, am I doing this right? Is this worth it? See all these people having parties and having fun, and here I am doing the grind.
Hey, it's the grind before the celebration, right? So I'm just curious, what do your kids think about their mom now? Seeing you go through these different stages, and now you're acting, you're producing. What do the kids think?
Well, from what they share with me, that for them not to give up. Even if something doesn't work out for you, say in one particular job, maybe it's supposed to redirect you to something more and something better. Sometimes there's so many roadblocks, and that resistance is pushing you to do something that you're supposed to be doing. So stop holding on to, there'll be a little bit resistance because you're new and everything, but not to where there's all these, like a dead end almost, and you keep on hitting into this wall. You're meant to go into another direction. Listen to other people, take into consideration, opening up other areas you didn't plan on, connecting with certain people, maybe different avenues of different job positions. I think we're all here learning and becoming aware, and don't be afraid. Yes, you can be afraid, but still go do it. Go with it.
Do it scared.
You have a fear, but you push through it.
What are the 3 things that has changed your life before we wrap up? What are the 3 things that changed your life?
Family. Having my husband and kids, if I didn't have them, I don't know if I would have been so grounded and centered and focused. I really feel they are my rock. Mm-hmm. Also, I guess getting older, that I guess age with somewhat of a wisdom is knowing that you could be comfortable with yourself, and you have to be careful, with other people and other influence if they're not being positive, that passive aggressive stuff. And you're like, what do you mean by that? And I think having to do without, so the upbringing also was a big influence. When someone has wronged me, I try to work hard and maybe step into that position to where I could make sure other people were taken care of and that not happen to them.
Before we wrap up, thank you so much for taking time out to share such a beautiful story.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you.
But I got to ask this question. With so many things that you've done, we read her bio. What are the 3 things that you cherish the most out of this long journey that you've been on?
The opportunity to show that I can do the job and the growth that it comes with it, and the awareness. I think anything in life, you keep on repeating the same things or the same lessons unless you go, I think a different direction. I think it tests you life. Like, hey, have you learned your lesson on this? Here, it's coming back at you. I think the awareness and the growth and the healing.
How can the viewers reach out to you and support you and follow your career, Nicole?
I guess Nicole Butler Vegas. I am stuck with that name. Very confusing with that. I guess also connecting through you. I think you building the bridge and connecting with others is really beneficial and healing for others to connect to people. So thank you both for taking the time with me.
Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, let me give shouts out to the one, the only, the girl herself, the girl who started it all. The Branthipus. Yeah, you started it all. The Branthipus, Yolanda Smith. So what are you doing lately? How can the viewers reach out to you, and what are you doing now?
They can catch me on social media. I'm always active and everything that I've got going on.
I know you're always active. Tell me about that dress you had on a couple weeks ago. Remember I called you?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you out there. Yeah, I was like,
no, that was last week. I was at the International.
Tell me the story. Tell the story real quick. Because, wait, let me finish. The way I'm doing this is it's almost like Nicole's story. She just shared. You have to be ready at any given moment when an opportunity happens. Boy, this is good. I'm getting downloads like a crazy. Yes. Tell me that story.
So I also, as a part of my, I provide tools and resources for individuals. And one of the tools and resources I provide is legal services, right? Affordable legal services for individuals. So maybe we need to talk in reference to how we can get the community involved. So we will definitely touch base. But here's the deal. So I go to the international convention. Mm-hmm. I get to the convention and I land, and all of a sudden I'm at baggage claim, and a text email comes through and says, tonight's the night. We look forward to seeing you at the gala. We're going to recognize you and you're going to have 90 minutes on stage. And I'm like, what? This is news to me. I didn't know this. And so immediately, at first I'm just like shocked, but then I'm just like, okay, well, it's time to go into mode, get into action, right? You can sit there and you can wallow in it. And man, they didn't tell me, I didn't pack any evening gown. I don't have this, that, or other. But instead, I chose to just take my butt to the mall. I went to the mall. I got what I needed to get. And the stars were aligned, found a beautiful dress, went down. The shoes were right there waiting for me, and the bag and the earrings. So I'm set. Then I go to have lunch and realize that they said a correction that the email wasn't meant. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So then this is the power of, there's power in proximity of knowing someone. So I went to the someone and I said, hey, I'm not sure what table I'm going to be at, but guess what? I'm going to be at somebody's table tonight, because I just went in a tizzy to go shop for this dress, spending my daughter's education funds. Yeah. And now I'm being told that I'm not supposed to be here. The person got back with me in an hour and said, stand by. You got to be kidding me. No, called me back and said, oh, you're in and you will be on stage. And so literally showed up at the gala, had my 90 seconds of fame for some achievement that I had won.
Congratulations.
And the dress ended up being a fabulous, fabulous dress that created quite the stir amongst a lot of my social media followers and fans.
So what I'm saying with that beautiful story is we're all, and I say this at the end of pretty much all the episodes. Make sure you guys subscribe, share, like, and follow Nicole Butler Vegas. Make sure you follow Yolanda, because the stories are similarity. We're all one step away from basically sharing the same journey in life. You guys just shared the same, pretty much identical story of women, perseverance, overcoming, and showing that you don't give up. With that said, this has been
another
exciting,
amazing,
and exciting episode of the Andre
The Beast
Crayton
Crayton show.